Hey everybody, and welcome to our live, and this is a special episode, and I am so thankful to be here. You might notice that I am not in my usual surroundings because, it's kind of funny. You got to be thankful in all circumstances. This morning at 10 a.m., we had a big truck hit a power pole right close to our house, and we have been without internet or power. So I do have to give a special thanks to Lakeside International School because they have allowed us to come in and use this as a backup spot. James Deere is here as well. Hey, James, you want to yell hi for us?
Hey, everybody.
Okay, so James is here. And most importantly, we have a special guest, Joyce Jagger. And I am going to pretty much take it right to her pretty quickly because just so you know, we did get a chance to talk a little bit before this, and I am super excited because we have so much in common given our history. And I'm going to let Joyce tell you about herself a little bit, but she has been at this for just a little while, and here she is. Hey, Joyce, how are you?
I am great. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us. And you've been in this industry for 40 years, correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay, that's awesome because I kind of think that I have too, but I could maybe even do it to 50 years because my first job was actually sitting on a mending table, gluing little tabs down on marrow bordered badges. And I got paid 1 penny a piece and I was 5 years old. So that means I've almost been in the industry 50 years, but you have seen a ton. And could you, share a little bit about how you got involved in your history?
Well, actually, I'm going to be talking a lot about that in just a few minutes, but I actually got started because a friend of mine asked me to put names on some jackets. And I knew nothing about embroidery, nothing. I didn't have an embroidery machine. I had a home sewing machine.
And was that your key to start looking at equipment that does stuff like that?
Not at the time.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess 40 years ago, things were pretty primitive.
Yes. Oh, yes, they were. Yeah. And I didn't, I knew nothing about embroidery, but the book that came with my machine said you could embroider with it. So I thought, okay, I can do this. Well, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears later, I got it accomplished.
And that's... It's kind of funny because when I used to give, quite a few classes on how to make money with embroidery, I would jokingly say when friends or family ask you to do something, you charge them twice as much and make them wait twice as long. So, but anyways, so it didn't end there though, because you ended up actually growing quite a bit over the years, correct?
No, I absolutely did. I ended up growing and growing. I spent a year with that little machine. It was a Singer machine. And I spent a year with that before I finally purchased a free motion embroidery machine. And that's how I got started. And I didn't buy my first computerized machine until 1984.
Wow. And that was just around the time I think that they were starting to put trimmers on machines, correct? I mean, in the early days, I remember our first machine that we had that did embroidery was a single needle Ultramatic machine. I don't know did you ever see one of those?
Oh, yes, I had a 6-head.
Okay, because those, I remember my original one, if I wanted to increase and decrease the speed on the machine, I didn't press buttons. I had a little lever underneath that actually made it speed up or slow down. So
that is correct.
And there were no trimmers in those days.
No.
So.
No.
Awesome. So how big did you get within the commercial embroidery field?
I ended up with a 15 head, a 12 head, a 6 head, and 4 singles.
Wow. And what point was that time-wise?
Almost 20 years.
Wow. Okay. So, and did you do a lot of contract embroidery, or did you deal directly with the end consumer?
I did a lot of contract embroidery.
Yeah.
I also dealt with the end user, but most of our work was contract.
Yeah, we were kind of in the same picture in the early years when we had our multi-heads running, and we had quite a few multi-heads, and we did a lot of contract work. And I always used to say that when you get into machines that are anywhere past a 6 head, when you get into the 12 head and above, I used to call them monsters because they want to be fed. You have to feed them
That's right.
constantly. Yeah, and so you need those orders. So it really does help if you get some good contracts. I don't know if you saw the same thing. What happened in our industry was, I guess back in around the late 90s, we started to see more and more work go offshore as far as volume orders are concerned, and that was sort of when we had to I guess look at the industry and pivot a little bit to try to adjust for it. Was the timeline almost the same for you?
That was just about the time that I sold.
Okay.
And
awesome.
A couple years later, I became the Embroidery Coach.
Awesome. And that's who you've been ever since. I mean, I've been following you. I've been following you for quite some time. And I know you have successfully helped people at every level with their business, right? Whether they're starting out or whether they want to increase production. So where is your real niche? Does it fall into all those areas?
It technically falls into all of them.
Awesome.
Today I had a Zoom call with a gentleman from Ireland that is a big screen printer, and he wants to add embroidery to his business. And I've done a lot of those. So, and I love doing that.
Yeah. And I guess, sorry,
I've also worked with the home embroiderers and, ones that are just now starting out, as well as, people that have small shops, some in their home, some storefronts, and it all works.
Yeah. And I've seen, I guess, the industry, I guess it doesn't change, but it kind of does. And with that, I mean, now obviously we are able to contact somebody, in Ireland or anywhere in the world, and we're able to, assist virtually and visually. And that in the old days, I mean, I remember when I did some consulting when I was in the commercial industry, we would go into the factories and more so, and there was really nothing else that could be done. Have you seen that transition now?
Absolutely. Before COVID, the past several years, I was on the road at least 1 week out of the month going into different businesses. But since COVID, I haven't left the house.
Yeah. And in a way, it's kind of nice, isn't it? I mean,
yes,
I'm itching to get out there again because I know that direct contact with people, nothing really matches it.
No,
but at the same time, being able to, at least in times like this, do what we do. And I guess that comes to another question that I have. I have been trying to keep my thumb on, the pulse of the industry. And I talked to quite a few of my customers. And I have seen that a lot of them have seen their businesses actually grow during this period. There seems to be a lot of businesses that have been obviously affected in a very negative way, but there's also a certain group of people that are getting into embroidery and they seem to be growing quickly. Have you found that?
Absolutely. Especially those that concentrate on high quality and great customer service.
Yeah.
And number one, they can name their price, and they're growing by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, and actually that was part of my notes here when we were kind of discussing, because you did send me your bio, so I was kind of looking over things, and I will mention that at your I guess largest point, you did have 32 employees in your factory working.
Yes, I did.
And that's a lot of people to manage. I know that because I was there, done that, and I never want to do it again.
Same here.
Yeah, but and actually these days, having the opportunity to work virtually, I find that expanding one's business also extends virtually now as well. You didn't, people are now used to working from home, and you don't have to necessarily have that hands-on one-on-one. But I think that the real word that was the key that you mentioned was quality.
Yes.
And I know you've been in this industry for a long time, and I've been in this industry for a long time. And I know when I did sort of teach people a little bit about business, I would always say, you have kind of three different options. You can, give people, quality, you can give them service, or like time, good delivery, or you can give them price, but you can't necessarily give them all three. So choose two. And
Mhm.
I always told them that the two you want to choose, number one is quality. If you can have quality, then that will be the lifeline of your business. It'll be the heartbeat. And if you
Mhm.
can get good at what you do, which is what you do, you train people to
Mhm.
become more efficient, then that is the second focal point. I find too many people personally, and I'm going to ask your opinion in a second, but I find too many people who come into this industry are more worried about price point than anything else. And that, in a way, is their downfall.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And like I mentioned a few minutes ago, if you've got great quality and good customer service, you can name your price.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I see people they put themselves out of business because they are trying to compete with other people who aren't
Mhm.
making money. That
That's
makes
right.
absolutely no sense. But it is true. Now, when you say quality is the issue, and I know there's many different I guess pieces to the puzzle when you're running an embroidery business. I mean, when people first get started, they probably don't fathom how many, working organs it takes to run that body. But what would you say is one of the most important things when it comes to quality and productivity in a shop or with your machine, which is what makes you money?
Getting the work out on time
Yep.
and just making sure that it is, again, high quality.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, and what is high quality? It's clean, it's crisp. You don't have threads hanging. I hate to see threads between small letters, and
Hmm.
you see this so often.
Hmm.
And that is so unsightly. It is certainly not a sign of quality.
Hmm.
I don't like to see the dot connected to the eye.
Yeah.
Again, low quality.
Yeah.
And you cannot take a design that has been digitized for like a woven fabric and successfully run it on a knit
Awesome. Awesome. And that
because it doesn't work.
you just said the one word that I was hoping you would say, which was the word digitize, because I
Yeah.
think that it really does come down to either if you're going to be digitizing your own designs, you learn how to create a design that is machine friendly, garment friendly. It
Mhm.
doesn't, it's not stiff or bulletproof. Like you said, it doesn't have, tons of connecting stitches that you can see. But at the same time, you don't want a design that has a million unnecessary trims, because
No,
you lose money every time that machine has to slow down, stop,
that is
tie out.
correct.
So yeah. So would you agree that digitizing is probably one of the key features? And did you experience that in your shop when you were running
Oh,
production?
absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I did not actually digitize when I had my business because I didn't have time. I
Mhm.
was running a shop. Now, as far as being able to make those designs production friendly, oh, I could do that.
Mhm.
And I was great at editing.
Yeah.
I could even take any stitch file and edit it successfully, which is something that you really don't do. But
Yeah.
I could do it because I did not know how to digitize and I didn't have the time to learn.
Mhm.
And I didn't
But
start digitizing until after I started coaching.
yeah, and you were too busy feeding the monsters, because
That's
that's
right.
really what you
That
had to
is
do.
exactly right.
But I'm guessing that I mean, if you weren't doing the digitizing, I'm guessing that you were very selective with who did do your digitizing, because I
Oh,
things have changed.
absolutely.
Things have changed a lot in the last
Yes.
25 years, and in a positive way, the price point has gotten a lot more reasonable, because I'll be totally frank and honest. Most of the digitizing services that I see now are offshore, and they're charging, I don't know, I've seen them as low as like $5 for a logo. I don't know if you've seen the
Yeah.
same thing out there.
Crazy.
And I can't lift my pen to my tablet for $5. I mean, that's
No.
just, it's not possible.
No.
So the good side is the price has gone down, but the bad side is you're sometimes getting what you pay for. So I know it's not like the old days. Do you remember how much we used to, well, I remember how much I used to charge for designs, but what did you pay for quality digitizing back in the day?
Anywhere from 25 to $35 a thousand stitches.
Uh-huh. Isn't that crazy? I mean, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
a left chest design, an average left chest design costs me about $250.
yeah, yeah. And people don't realize that now.
No,
I mean,
no.
and prior to what I'm doing, because I think you and I are very similar in that we've kind of pivoted and evolved with the industry. I mean, this industry never died. It never slowed down. It just evolved.
That's
And
right.
what I saw coming from the production side into the digitizing side, we survived for one reason, because we had a team of digitizers at one point after we quit production. And I digitized for over 500 companies globally at that point, like
Wow.
everywhere from Europe to Iceland. And we did charge a minimum of $15 per thousand, and rush service was 25 per thousand. And we had more work than we could handle. And we were more expensive than everybody else. But the reason why they used us is because they weren't running single head machines. They were running 24 head machines. And if you don't have a design that runs well on a 6 head or a 12 head, you're actually losing money. Your investment is in that equipment and how much it can produce, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's amazing how much it has changed. And I think that is hopefully, and this is why I appreciate you so much, because you're teaching people, and I hate to say, old school, but some of that theory that you and I learned in the early days, it didn't necessarily become irrelevant. It still is as relevant today as it was back then. Some
Yes,
people
sir.
just have forgotten it. I don't know.
That is correct. And I have to laugh when people complain about a design that they they have received from their digitizer, and they paid $20 for it, and it's not running perfect. Well, it's not going to. If you can get a design for $20 that is running perfect, you are so lucky.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, and keep that digitizer. Don't share his
Yes,
name or her name with anybody else, because you don't want them to get too busy. I mean, that
that is
it's
correct.
it's like finding a diamond in the rough. I agree with you. So the yeah, quality is definitely key. And
Mhm.
I think that, and I know this is something that happened with me when I was growing my business, and especially as you become an educator, it's never let compliments go to your head, and never let criticism go to your heart. You have to
That's
sort of
right.
stay on an even keel, but you have to do that in your business as well. It's good to stay focused and to stay consistent.
Mhm.
And if you can be consistent with quality, then that is a recipe for longevity. And I think that's what you teach.
That's exactly what I teach.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
Awesome. Awesome.
teach I teach that you have to learn how to edit your designs.
Mm.
That is key. I mean, it when that design comes in from the digitizer, you must be able to look at that design and tell if it's got the right settings in it for the right fabrics. And if not, you should be able to change it
Yeah.
and
And
get
know
it
how to change
where
it. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's kind of funny when you talked about you didn't actually digitize, but you knew how to edit. It's a lot of times things can be, I guess, how can I put this? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? I mean, that can be disputed. You can talk forever which came first, the chicken or the egg. But when you talk about which came first, the embroiderer or the digitizer, in my opinion, the best digitizers are people who were embroiderers.
That is
you know
correct.
they ran machines. They understand how things are working. They understand what's good. They understand what's
Mhm.
bad. And then they get into the process of learning how to create designs. And
Mhm.
my guess is you are probably an amazing digitizer now, if you wanted to be, because if you know how to fix something, in reality you know how to create it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So how do you gauge your customer's success? Like when you're working with somebody, and obviously everybody has their own ideals of success, but how do you gauge your I guess your success with your customers?
Whether or not they're making money,
Uh-huh.
and whether or not they know how to fix those designs. I mean,
Yeah.
that is just huge.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, a new embroiderer, so many of them think, okay, we've got our software. All right, now I'm going to be able to just put together anything. I can type in my letters and take it and put it onto the machine, and it's just going to go. Well, it doesn't
Mhm.
work that way. In you have got to learn and understand full compensation and underlay stitching. And I was, I didn't really understand all of that when I had my shop.
Hmm.
I mean, I knew if it wasn't right, I knew how to fix it, but yet I really didn't have the understanding of it. But there wasn't a design that I couldn't make run like a
Hmm.
top.
Yeah.
And then when I started actually coaching, I thought, now I have got to understand all of these things. And I went out searching and I found this.
Oh, that looks familiar.
And that was my introduction to really learning about full compensation and underlay
Wow.
stitching and getting me started with digitizing.
Well,
So,
I'm kind of humbled that why I'm humbled, and I'm also kind of proud that, excuse me, I played a very small part in helping, you understand that as well, because that
mhm.
kind of took me by surprise. Actually, a quick backstory on that book. I have to thank my beautiful wife for me writing that book, because the year that I wrote it, I was exclusive with a machine company and I had very little time, and I turned the publisher down. And it was actually at the Sewing and Stitchery Expo in Puyallup. And I said to them, I'm sorry, I just don't have the time to do it, but I really appreciate it. And I went home and told my wife Jennifer about the book and that I turned it down. And she read me the riot act, and she said, "You are going to do that. I don't care what you have to do, but you don't. Opportunity doesn't come around like that." Yeah. So I locked myself in a hotel room over like right before Christmas. My kids were small because that was like 17 years ago now. And I knocked out that book. And the good news is, to be honest, it was pretty easy because it was stuff that we were teaching. It's just taking
Mhm.
everything that we learned. And you probably have the same thing, I'm guessing, the resources you have available. And this is where I'm hoping that the people watching will agree with me. I know that we live in the information age. I know that there is a ton of resources out there on YouTube, and we're a part of that as well. But there's certain things that I and you and other industry experts do have that are of great value. And what I mean by that is it's worth actually paying for some of the expertise to get past the learning curve. Because you mentioned price point and you mentioned productivity, but I think one of the other really key things for anybody in business is to enjoy what they're doing. you
Oh,
know,
yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
if it's not fun, if all you're doing is going in every day and feeling frustrated, and we all have those days. I mean, we're not immune to that.
Mhm.
But if every day is frustration, then it's time to find something new, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love what I do.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, it's my life's work, and
Yes.
luckily now it's my kids are all involved, and that was by choice, which I'm kind of thankful about that too. So, but if you don't mind, actually, because I know I brought you in here to talk about what you do. I want people to know that you have some things to offer. Like anybody who is starting in this and they want to start as a business, and if you want to start as a business, part of your business plan should be education and
Mhm.
learning how to be successful. I mean, it should be part of what you do. We have paid education. I know you do. So if you wouldn't mind covering a little bit what you do, Joyce, and I'll just kind of sit back and watch and learn as well. If that's all right.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm gonna actually bring up your PowerPoint there, so you're ready
Okay.
to go, and I will not hide myself, but I'll be quiet.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Like I said, I am just so grateful for this opportunity, and I have learned so much from you. So, um, I'm just going to talk a little bit about who I am and how I became the embroidery coach. So, I see, I am, excuse me. Um, whoops.
No worries. On the bottom tab for the windows, just bring up your PowerPoint. You won't see me anymore, but you're still here, I promise you.
Okay,
I'll let you know
great,
if you
great, great,
disappear.
good. Got it. Okay, thank you so much.
No worries.
All right. Well, my name is Joyce Jagger, the embroidery coach, and I have been consulting and training now for over 20 years. And I have helped hundreds of struggling embroiderers increase their business and become very, very profitable. I have worked with small home embroiderers that are just starting their business, as well as large companies. I have worked with large companies like Kate Spade. I put their embroidery program together, and that was such a joy. And I went out and trained their operators in their fulfillment house, and that was an absolutely really, really fun job. Now, a little bit about me. I started my business in my home 40 plus years ago, and I grew and had a multi-head embroidery shop. And like I said, I had a 15 head, I had a 12 head, a 6 head, and 4 singles. And that 6 head that I have was the one that John was talking about, was an Ultramatic single needle. And we embroidered thousands of caps on that machine before we ever had a cap machine. So it was amazing. I love what I was doing, and growing my business was very exciting, but I love what I do now and have no plans for retiring. I'm a grandmother with 8 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren, including 3-year-old twins, and I'm a cancer survivor. Now, I've coached hundreds of embroiderers to build highly successful businesses. I created the largest and longest running embroidery training membership online today. And I wrote the book, The Truth About Embroidery Business Success. Now, who is Joyce Jagger? I started sewing at the age of 5. And at 10 years old, I made my first skirt and blouse for my little sister that was just starting school. At the time, my mother was in the hospital, and she was having a baby. And I did not want to see my little sister go to school without a new outfit. So I took one of my skirts, ripped it up, made a skirt for her out of it. And I took an old sheet and made a little white blouse for her. And she was so happy, and I'll never forget that. And in 1978, a friend of mine asked me to put names on jackets. And this is the machine that I used to start my embroidery business. It was not an embroidery machine. It was just a regular Singer zigzag home sewing machine. And I worked with that machine for over a year before I then purchased an old Meistergram and started working that way. And I could turn anything out with those machines. I loved it. And I mean, I did some really amazing things with it. This was all free-handed. And I created Mickey way back then. And, there was nothing about trademarks or anything at that point. And I ended up doing that on several jackets for a gentleman, and that was just pretty cool. And I could embroider almost anything free-handed. And I made this pillow and embroidered Richard Petty's head on it. I got the design off of a calendar. And at the time, we were making racing uniforms. And I took my pillow to one of the tracks when I was delivering uniforms, and Richard Petty was there. And so he signed it. So I've got his autograph on that pillow. And he was absolutely amazed at how much the pillow actually looked like him. So that was pretty cool. But that was a long time ago, as you can tell by the way I look in that picture. And this was one of our multi-head embroidery machines. This was actually the last multi-head that I purchased. I purchased this in 1995. And this machine, this just worked with hats all the time. We didn't hardly do anything else with this machine except hats, and it was constantly growing. Now, the beginning of the Embroidery Coach. I sold my business in 1998 because I had health issues. And my husband wanted me to retire and stay home, work in the garden, remodel the house. He's still waiting for that. Still haven't done it. And I went to a seminar on how to start an embroidery business because I just wanted to know exactly what they were telling people and how you would start it in today's world. Well, today's world, way back then. So that was in the year 2000. And I went through that seminar. I was really kind of disgusted because actually all the guy was doing was selling a machine. He wasn't really telling people how to start. And they were asking all kinds of questions. He couldn't answer their questions. And afterwards, I went up to some of the people and I answered their questions. And then all these people were gathering around me, asking questions, and I was answering their questions. And then I thought, you know what? I could teach people how to start an embroidery business. I would love to do that. So I ended up going home and I made a list of 150 videos. I wrote down everything that a new embroiderer needed to learn in order to start their embroidery business, all the different procedures they needed, all the supplies they needed, everything. I wrote it all down, and then I spent 1 year creating 150 videos. And then I created my first membership site in 2008 and uploaded all of the videos, and that's how I got started. And I ended up taking a job as a result of going to that seminar, because I went up to the guy and I said, how can I do what you're doing? And he said, I don't know. I'll talk to my boss about it. Well, his boss called me and wanted to know if I wanted to be a rep for New York State selling the Tajima embroidery machines. I said, absolutely, because he told me I would have my own machine and software that I could use for all of my demos. So, I mean, that sold me, because when I sold my business, I wanted to really bring one of my single heads home, and my husband wouldn't let me. He said, no, you'll just start all over again. And I said, no, I won't. But I settled, and I got so excited when this guy said you could have your own machine and software. So, like I said, that was the selling point. So then I spent 2 years traveling all over New York State and doing hotel demos. And as I was doing them, I was working with the software, trying to learn the software. And like I said, I knew nothing about digitizing at all, except that I knew how to edit designs. I absolutely knew how to do that one. But anyways, I did that for 2 years, and I absolutely hated it because I wanted to teach people. I wanted to help them. And I knew that I knew what I was doing. So anyways, I ended up going to, the company was Hirsch, and I told them that I did not want to sell these machines anymore. I wanted to train people and give me a job training people. No, we can't do that. You just get out there and sell. And what I did was I would sell a machine, and then I would go back to them and spend 2 days with them, teaching them how to get started. And the company didn't like that at all. So I just decided, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go ahead with my plans. And I ended up, like I said, creating all of those videos. It was great. And I used those people that I had sold machines to get, recommendations from. A lot of them became my customers as far as members in my membership site. And like I said, it worked out great. So I am forever grateful for having that opportunity, and it all worked out well. And I've been coaching and training ever since. Now, my business has grown and evolved several times since then. I now, like I said, I learned how to digitize. I started learning how to digitize in 2008 when I got John Deere's book, and I was so thirsty for training. And like I said, I purchased his book, Digitizing Made Simple. And then I looked at two mentors when I started digitizing because I was very, very hungry. And I went out and spent 1 week on site with one of my mentors. And he used Wilcom software. I used Pulse, but it didn't matter. He used Wilcom all day long. I go back to my hotel at night and I would translate what he told me in Wilcom to Pulse. And he taught me how to digitize small lettering. I mean, that's what he focused on, and with all the right settings for the different fabrics, and it was great. And the principles are the same in all software. It doesn't matter if you've got Pulse, if you've got Wilcom, if you've got Hatch, it doesn't matter. They all work the same. Now, and the basics, like John said, we learned the old school, okay? I still teach old school. The basics are the basics. They never, ever change. That's one thing you want to remember. And if you are having issues with something that you cannot figure out, go back to the basics. It works every single time. You want to make sure that you are always using the right needles for the fabrics that you have, okay? This is very important. Your knits, you want to use ballpoint needles. Your woven fabrics, you want to use sharp needles. I have gone into large companies, big companies, and they were using ballpoint needles on their caps and couldn't figure out why they kept tearing the caps. The caps were all dug up around where the digitizing was. Couldn't figure it out. Had the wrong needle. So it's very, very important to use the right needle for the right fabric. You want to make sure that you're using the correct backing or stabilizer for your fabrics. Now, home embroiders, they refer to it as stabilizer. In the commercial market, it's backing. It's exactly the same thing. Now, one thing that I have always taught is keep it simple. The backing companies sell you a zillion different kinds of backings, and you don't need all of these different kinds of backings. You really do not. You want to keep it simple. Now, you want to learn the basics of hooping tight, whether you are using a hooping device or hooping by hand. You've got to know the basics of hooping right from the very beginning. Many times you may be working with an item that you can't even put on a hooping device, and you have to know how to hoop it by hand.
Now, can I come in and ask
Do
one
not
question?
run a small. Yes, you can.
Awesome. Sorry, but the hooping thing, I am 100% with you on hooping. That hooping is, it's vitally important to hoop properly, hoop tightly, make sure that your hoop size reflects your design size,
Yes.
all that good stuff. But how do you feel about the floating thing? Because a lot, and I do agree that once in a while there is times where you might need to float some fabric on stabilizer. But I've always been of the opinion that whenever possible, you should securely hoop your fabric in with your stabilizer. Are you in agreement on that?
Absolutely. Okay. Now, there's been many times when I've had an issue I've had an item that I could not hoop. Like I do not hoop leather garments at all.
Yeah.
But I make sure that I use a good applique glue to spray and attach it, and then I clamp them down.
Yeah, and I think that's where now a lot of the advantages with hooping aids, and there's
Yes,
magnetic hoops and clamping hooping systems.
correct.
Those we didn't have all of that available, and I don't think you did at that time.
No way.
I would have given my right arm. I'm left-handed, so I can't get my left hand, but I would have given my right arm for some of the stuff that's available now. And
That's right.
I think there's a real value in some of that specific equipment to make life easier. So anyways, I'll leave you now, but I just wanted to chime in there because I knew
Yes,
you'd agree with me.
absolutely. I love especially these magnetic hoops, but I've got all kinds of clamps. When I was putting together the embroidery program for Kate Spade, most all of that had to be done with clamps. So, and like you said, we didn't have those in our day. If you either hooped it in a hoop or you floated it. That was the only choice you had. But and I had told you that we had done thousands of caps on that Ultramatic. Those were all floated. You couldn't hoop those. We spray tacked backing, and we literally smashed those hat fronts down on that backing and embroidered them. And sometimes I was afraid we had so much glue on them they'd stick to people's heads, but never had a complaint. But I love the clamps in those magnetic hoops. I've got a whole bunch of magnetic hoops myself and use them whenever I can. So they're great for your on your hands. They're great. I love them. Okay, and like he said, you want to make sure that your design fits your hoop. Don't try running a small design in a large hoop. It doesn't work. You're not going to get a good quality design in the end. You've got too much flagging that happens, or it will not stay in registration. That's something you have to be very careful of. And you want to make sure that your tensions are set properly to avoid bird nesting. This is extremely important. I get so many people saying they send me a sew out of their design, a picture of their sew out, and it's just a mess. And it's most of the time it's tension, and they can't figure out. They keep getting bird nesting. Well, most of the time bird nesting is totally unavoidable if your tensions are correct. So you want to keep that in mind. And again, you cannot type letters into your software and expect that they're going to sew out great on all your fabrics. It doesn't work that way. You have got to make sure that you understand your pull compensation, your underlay stitching, and get the right settings for those letters in order to make them sew out great on all of your fabrics.
Now, one little thing I'll add there, because that's if I can interrupt for 1 second again, that's sort of one of my cues to push the ESA fonts that Wilcom has. And for those of you who heard Joyce mention the word Pulse, Pulse is actually a commercial software program that is kind of Wilcom's direct competition. And both do have what I like to call object-based lettering, which means that they aren't converted from true type fonts. They actually are digitized properly so that the stroke weight is, friendly for embroidery and all that kind of stuff. But you should have fonts that actually join together in the right places, which is the closest point between the two fonts. So I see a lot of people have, I guess, not necessarily problems with embroidery, but problems with making money with embroidery because their fonts just don't run smoothly, and they have literally trims and jumps between every single letter. That's money falling off the embroidery table.
That is correct.
I'm gone now.
And like I said again, you must understand pull compensation and underlay stitching in order to make your lettering come out great on all of your fabrics. I mean, this is just so important. And you need to know what that machine is doing, what that machine is supposed to be doing. And like John had said earlier, a good embroiderer will make a much better digitizer. In today's world, your digitizers, most of them that are overseas, I mean, I don't think we even have any that digitize here anymore. They can't afford to. And so many of these digitizers, they're graphic designers that they're pulled off the street. They're given a few basic lessons in embroidery to create their designs. Many times they aren't even sewn out. So how can you expect that they're going to come back looking great? It just doesn't happen. Now, like I said, I learned a lot from John about push and pull, an awful lot. And I am forever grateful. You must understand your software. Absolutely. And like I said, all the softwares, I don't care if it's home software or if it's commercial software, they will all create your lettering and your designs, but you have to understand it. You have to know what the tools are in that software. But the principles are all the same and they will work. Now, there are some home software out there that I wouldn't, it's awful. But for the most part, most of them are good. So many of them today are made by either Wilcom or Pulse. And those products are all good. So you can get away with that. Now, here is another thing. Do not run your machine too fast. Now, the salespeople sell you machines and, oh, this machine is going to go 1,200 stitches a minute. Oh, this machine is going to go 1,500 stitches a minute. And people think they can really run them like that. Well, you can't. You aren't going to get decent quality. And this was a cap design that was run, excuse me, on a Melco. Now, I'm not saying anything against Melco or for Tajima. I'm just saying this was run on a Melco at 1,500 stitches a minute, okay? This was run on a Tajima at 750 stitches per minute. It was the exact same design. And the only difference was the speed, okay? It was not the machine. It was the speed of the machine, okay? So you want to keep that in mind. You cannot run those machines like the salespeople tell you that you can. It just doesn't work. Now, I have a membership site called Embroidery Business Academy with 3 levels of membership. I have a startup gold level, and that's for the person that is just starting up. And it's all about, strictly about embroidery. Okay, how to. In all of the items that you need to use, the right backings, the needles, how to set up your machine, how to hoop them, how to get them in and out of the machine, how to clean them up, and how to create small letters, pull compensation, all of that. That is included in the startup gold level. And then the next level is the growth or the platinum level. That teaches you how to price your embroidery, how to create all your sales tools. It's so important to have the right sales tools. It saves you so much time because I don't know about you, but especially when I was a one-man operation, I'd have somebody come into the shop and they'd want to be waited on. And I'd get so frustrated because in the first place, they didn't know what they wanted. They had no idea. They expected me and waited for me, being the professional, to guide them and show them exactly what they think they wanted. So anyways, they would have to go through catalogs. We'd have to go, it was a nightmare. And then I came up with simple sales tools that I created, and I could get them in and out of the shop very quickly so that I could get back to my production because I was losing money. And to me, that was very frustrating. So I teach you how to, like I said, how to make your own sales tools, how to create your scheduling system, how to quote designs, all of that in a quick manner. And then my highest level is my mastery or titanium level, where I teach you how to set up your books so that you've got everything running right for the apparel industry, because setting up your books for the apparel industry is not the same as setting it up for any other kind of business. It's totally, totally different. But I teach you how to do that. And I've taught hundreds of people. And it, like I said, it makes you much more successful. And you can know exactly where you are at any given time. You've got your scheduling going on. You can turn your work out much quicker. You can create your invoice just as soon as the job is completed, and you're bringing money in quicker. It all works much better. Okay. And then I also offer private personal training as well. And most of that is either done on Zoom or on the phone. And I have a training center in my home where we bring people in. Now, we've only had one person come in since COVID, and that was in September. I had someone come in. She spent 3 days, and she's coming back again in February for 3 more days. But anyways, we teach them right from the ground up if they want hands-on training. And my son will work mainly with them, and then I help them with their pricing and getting their business in order. I help them create their logo, and so that when they come in, and like I said, this is more geared to the brand new embroiderer. So when they come in, they're just starting. When they leave, their business is together and ready to actually get going. And right now I have for you to go to the embroiderycoach.com/3 basic techniques and download this little guide on the 3 basic techniques to unlock the secret to high quality embroidery that closes more sales. If you have got high quality embroidery and have a great turnaround time, good customer service, you can name your price. People think they can't do that, but that is a fact.
I agree 100%. And I know that, just so you know, Joyce, I think my sons are putting up on YouTube and Facebook the link for that. So if you want to go and get your 3 basic techniques, definitely check it out. I am in full agreement that getting involved with quality education, whether it's for embroidery or digitizing, regardless of the machine brand you have or the software you own, those foundational things, and I think you'll agree with me, Joyce, that some machines are a little better than others. We aren't going to mention any names because that's not what we do here. And some programs are, a little more intuitive and easier to use than others are as well. So I think the point is, though, that regardless of what equipment you have, if you've made that decision and you're already, married and in bed, so to speak, you don't have to right away consider your frustration buyer's remorse. You can actually learn some of those foundational things like, whether it's hooping or fabric types or underlay or how fast you run your machine or which needles you use, which stabilizers go with what, workflow, how to get your orders in and out as quickly as possible. And I love what you said about getting your customers in and out of the door as quickly as possible. That it's all very valuable tools, because the most important asset that you have to your business is not your equipment, it's you.
That's right.
So you need to spend some time and energy and money, to be honest, in training yourself to be successful. And if you do that properly, your machines will actually embroider, better. I mean, all of a sudden that machine that you might have had trouble with and you didn't like, it's actually now doing what it was meant to do because you have been trained to make it work properly.
That is correct. That happens so often. And like you said, if you've already got the equipment, whether it's great equipment or not, you've got to use what you've got. You've got to make the best that you can with what you have before you can move forward.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I have like a a smorgasbord of equipment now when we do sampling, because we do a ton of sampling, we create a ton of designs, and I have like a Melco Bravo, I have a 1501 machine, I have a couple of 10 needle machines, I have, you know, 2 ZSK machines, and I will let you know that my favorites are the ZSK because they, you know, they do, in my opinion, outperform, but you know, usually the cost is reflective of that. And just so I'm fair, and I mean, I saw you had Tajimas in your, I mean, I had Tajimas, that was our brand, and I love Tajimas, and I think that, you know, investing that extra little bit and doing your homework, and that, I'm guessing that's something else you teach as well, right? Is which
Absolutely.
machine? Okay, yeah,
Yes.
I mean, there's so many great things that you can learn from, you know, somebody like Joyce, or hopefully myself as well. And I hope that this is the beginning of future things for you and I, Joyce. I think we could have some fun together, maybe working on some future projects.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. Okay, did you have anything else? Because I have a couple more questions for you, but I just want to make sure that you. Okay,
Nope, this
awesome.
is it.
Perfect. Well,
I just want to thank you, John, for this opportunity, and just let them know if they have any questions, they can contact me at joyce@embroiderycoach.com.
awesome. Well, you did a great job, and I only have a couple more things. We always do some giveaways during our streams because people like us more when we give away stuff for free. So I always make sure that we do that. So that still is coming, guys. But I did have 2 questions for you, Joyce. One, obviously, having trained now for like 2 decades in the industry, have you seen that the demographic has kind of changed as far as the customers that you're getting? Like, was it more traditionally a person coming in who was like, I want to be a commercial embroiderer, like, and now, because I've seen this now with the home industry, there's so many people that love embroidery and decide that this is maybe something that I want to do to make some money. That seems to be what I've seen in the transition.
Absolutely. I have a lot of retired people that want to start, they want to do something fun, and they want to make money at it. And I have one of my favorite customers is a gentleman that was a retired hospital executive, and he is from Las Vegas, and he ended up calling me before he got started with the business. And after doing some research, he says, I found you on the internet, and it looks like you're the person I need to talk to. And so I got him going, and he is dynamite. He's growing like leaps and bounds, and it's amazing. And he's so much fun to work with. So
that's awesome.
You know, you don't expect this. I mean, I didn't expect this at the time. I have doctors, I've got nurses, I've got all walks of life that are in all ages.
Yeah, it is awesome, and we've seen that as well. I mean, our demographic is actually, from what we're seeing online, and this is my leading into my second question, is how do you think this pandemic has kind of changed the landscape of how people traditionally, like pre-pandemic, how they traditionally ran their business and how they are pivoting to this, I guess, new normal?
A lot of people, I mean, I have taught a lot of people to work with their customers online using Zoom. You can show samples. You can take an order. You can show them your sew out. You can do anything through Zoom.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm seeing a lot happen. Now, some people are scared to death of it, but you know, once they get used to it, it's a piece of cake. Now they're not wasting time going out to their customer. They're doing it all right there, and it is so much better.
Well, you never know the temperature of the water just looking at a pool. You got to stick a foot in, right? I mean, that's the reality of it. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. I've seen so many people now that have kind of obviously pivoted towards technology. We when we did our first webinar, right, I think before the pandemic hit, we had a substantial amount of people sign up for one of our webinars, and majority of them did not know how to get into Zoom. It was relatively a new word for them. Yeah. And now, 2 years in, I don't know a person who, hasn't work their way around a platform like that. So the world, has changed, but I think in a way there's no going back from it now, because people who
No.
weren't interested in learning online or in technology or buying online, they just didn't want to conform to that. Now there's been no choice but to. And I think a lot of people are enjoying the convenience of not only purchasing, but also the convenience of education at their own time, at their own pace.
And I have seen something else that's happened. When you go online, when you purchase something, you pay full price for it. You pay right then and there before you get it. So now with the embroiderers, so many of them are charging the whole price right up front. So it's increasing their cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
So that is another thing that is happening. I've always taught to get at least 50% down, at least, and the job doesn't go out the door until it's paid for. That's all there is to it. And so they have just switched to getting it 100% upfront, and like you said, it helps with their cash flow. So it's great.
Cash is king in the business world. And I at one point, because we used to, I don't know if you did this, but in the old days, we did obviously offer terms to customers.
Mm-hmm.
That was the way it worked. And we worked with a lot of large scale manufacturers, and some of them would have been like distilleries or breweries or sports companies which did licensed goods. And when we gave them, let's say, 90-day terms, we were lucky if we saw the money, after 6 months. I mean, it was painfully, waiting for that money at the time. And we got to a point where people started asking me, do you offer terms? And I'd say, yeah, it's 30 days. It's called, Visa and MasterCard, and you have to transition into that, because, having, especially with embroidery, because you are taking a risk. I mean, you have your time, the garment, everything there, something that you've had to put cash up front for. And I agree with you. You want to at least cover that. And I do like that it's paid for and you've made your money. So that's right. That's really cool. Cool. Well, I'm going to keep you on with me, because I'm going to share a couple of things on the stream here. And maybe one of them, I'm interested to see your reactions. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but number one, we do have a Christmas party coming up. That's live on December the 2nd. And if anybody wants to type in win, 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 on Facebook or YouTube, we're going to give away one of our Puff Stuff ornament packs. So that's our new pack that we did this week. If you caught our stream on Tuesday, just type that in, and there's going to be 2 people who win. Jesse and James are keeping their eyes open right now. But if you want to join us in December, we have a Christmas party, and we have a couple of contests. Number one is our EMB design contest. All you have to do is email us at contact@embroiderylegacy.com. We'll send you out the EMB files. This is specifically for Hatch or Wilcom users, because you are going to dress up these kind of drab, ordinary looking files and give it your best shot, and you're going to be judged by your peers. And then we have our Embroidery Legacy Design Contest, which all of our designs are 51% off. I didn't have that in there, but you can actually, if you don't have any of our Christmas designs, we have over 3,000 Christmas designs to choose from. Now, the other thing that hopefully you guys have had a chance to look at is our 3D embroidery puff stuff. And with the puff stuff, it is unique and awesome. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I know the boys are going to put up the link to the video. Essentially, it gives you the same effect as 3D puffy foam without needing to digitize designs specifically for foam, and you can do tiny lettering. It is kind of one of those magical products that we have found and that we have in right now. And of course, we talked a bit about hooping and how having certain tools to make you more productive, which is what Joyce is all about. Our Kidna hooping stations are on sale. We're giving away bonuses, and it comes with 4 different sizes, and it works on the principles of magnets, which is wonderful because no matter what brand of machine you have, home or commercial, whether it's a magnetic hoop or whether it is a clamp style hoop, you can put it on there, hold it in place with magnets, and those magnets actually hold your stabilizer in place as well. So that's our stuff. Now, also, if you want to try digitizing, we have a trial with free lessons any software program is only as good as the education and support that comes with it. And that's where we've tried to excel as a reseller. And then again, join us on our Facebook, our social media groups. We have a couple of groups, one geared specifically for Hatch, which we just passed 10,000 members, and that is really exciting. And then we have our regular group, which is Machine Embroidery and Digitizing Made Easy, where we answer questions for all. So all of that is available. And if we do have a couple of winners. Now, have you seen our puff stuff yet, Joyce?
No, I have not, but
I am going to send you. I'm going to send you a yard of puff stuff. I'm going to.
Fantastic.
We have gotten slammed with orders. So actually, side note, I'm going to the States on Saturday to help our warehouse get orders out. It's what the boss has to do. So, but I'm going to make sure that I get a package sent out to you so you can play with this stuff. It is amazing.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
well, I'll tell you what. Yesterday on my live training, I have a live training every Wednesday at 2:00, and they were all talking about it.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So, and they couldn't wait to get it. And
okay, just to give you a visual, and I don't know if you'll see this, but that is a regular patch that I did. So it's just a regular embroidered patch there. Actually, it was upside down. This is the same patch with puff stuff. I don't know if you can see how it's.
I can tell the difference.
Yeah, it's three, and that's small lettering, and I know, and it's upside down. Yeah. But you can't do foam that small.
No, you can't.
I've tried, and it doesn't happen. So yeah, I'm going to send you some of that and play with it because it's. I mentioned in my stream, there's a couple times that I've experienced what I call embroidery magic, where the skies opened up and the angels came down singing. One was when machine trimmers were first implemented, because in the old days we didn't have trimmers, and that was a real pain. When I saw a design on a computer screen, that was another ooh-ah moment for me, because we didn't have that in the early days. The other one was when I first saw actual 3D puffy foam, which was way back 26 or 27 years ago. And now this is the fourth time I've kind of been hit by lightning, but it's puff stuff. So it's really cool.
That's great.
Anyways, we have some winners, James and Jesse.
Absolutely.
Do you want to come over?
Bethany helping us.
Oh, Bethany. Okay, sorry. It's my daughter helping us. My daughter, Beth. Okay, so James is going to come over right now, I think. And I apologize. Normally he has a mic and he's all mic'd up, but we are, I guess, doing our mobile embroidery. So, hey, James.
Hello, everybody. Alrighty. So for winners on YouTube, we have Renee Monson. So congrats, Renee.
Renee. So just make sure you email us at contact@embroiderylegacy.com.
Absolutely. And our Facebook winner is Tequila Scott. So, yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Awesome. So, guys, just reach out to us, and we will get you your puff stuff ornament. Now, you don't have to use the puff stuff if you don't have it or don't want it. You can use, just regular embroidery thread, but it actually does come out pretty cool with the puff stuff. So, anyways, that's it for me. Do you have anything else, Joyce, that you want to add to this? I really appreciate you joining us. I am hoping that our paths cross virtually and physically in the future. I think we could have some fun.
Great. That sounds great. And speaking of your puff stuff in puff, you can't successfully put puff on anything but a cap.
Yep.
Because it doesn't wash that well. You can't send it to the dry cleaners. But with your puff stuff, you can put it on anything.
Well, yes and no. I do tell people that it does have the same, I guess, attributes as the foam wood, in that it best serves its purpose on non-wearable items. Okay. I have done testing on T-shirts, and I'm a little amazed at how this product works, even on a T-shirt, because it does raise the design that I put on a T-shirt. We did put it through laundering over a dozen times, and it did not disappear, but it did, kind of like any T-shirt type thing, it can get a little wrinkly, So I'm not going to make a claim that this will work on, T-shirt material, or if you are going to launder something over and over and over again, this might have a limited life expectancy like Mylar or 3D foam or a lot of other creative, techniques would. Mm-hmm. But if you want to put it on a baseball hat, getting tiny puff like that on a baseball hat is just, that was not
That's
possible
That's
until
right.
we did this product. And it's easy. I mean, it just dissolves away with warm water, which is really cool. So
That's
anyways,
excellent.
thank you guys, everybody, for joining us. And thank you, Joyce. This was awesome. We are just, we've gone 10 minutes over, but I appreciate everybody joining us. And God willing, we will see you guys all again soon. Thank you, Joyce.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.